Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamong, and no Jamie Ueyama today. He is traveling. Jamie is a weary Christmas traveler, and he is not able to do a show. And I was planning to do a show regardless, because we want to keep it regular. We want to get the show out. So I planned on doing a show today, talking about various portal topics, talking about various things with the bowl game and that sort of thing. And then Pete Thamel drops a report that Sam Hartman is going to enter the transfer portal, and he had been linked to Notre Dame last week. And Pete Thamel says Sam Hartman's going to go into the portal, and Notre Dame is the likely landing spot, I think is what he said. So I said, okay, we're gonna fire up the pod machine, and we're gonna record a show, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about where Irish Sports Daily is with this report, and how we kind of see things, and what it could mean, and what Sam Hartman, is he a good fit for Notre Dame, and all those things. So thank you very much for joining the show. For the people who have done so, S. Gomez says LFG. Well, we all know what that means, so let's go. And Kevin Simonson says good morning, and Sam Hartman is officially in the transfer portal. So Notre Dame can officially talk to him. Now, obviously, it's a little bit difficult with the Notre Dame's bowl game is taking place in about 3 days. And so that's going to be a kind of a tough thing. I imagine they're going to want to get him into the program, or not into the program, but to visit and come see the campus and all those other things. And there's other things that got to work out. And so Simon Aguilera says, yes, sir. So, yeah, it's an exciting thing. I think if Notre Dame was to land him. Tim Jones says best Notre Dame quarterback since. So I guess we could talk about that. But before we get going, first of all, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you're watching on replay, thank you very much for catching us on the replay as well. And if it's your first time listening to the show and you like what you hear, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so we go live. So this was kind of a spur of the moment thing. So if you weren't on Twitter, or you weren't on the IrishSportsDaily.com website, you didn't see we were going live, if you hit the notification bell, we're going live, and we're going to talk about the football team, and right now the portal, and what that all means. So CFB Hertz is contributing. Thank you for the super chat for the Sam Hartman NIL fund. Yes, can't confirm that those funds will go not directly to Sam Hartman, but I appreciate that, CFB Hertz, and you're always in the show. So thank you for your contribution there. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year is coming up. Happy holidays. However you celebrate the season. So, all right. So let's just housekeeping first, in terms of what we're going to do. So I will be on a show with Jamie on Thursday, hopefully previewing the game that'll be taking place on Friday. So we're going to do a preview then. He wanted to do it tomorrow, but it's my son's birthday tomorrow, so we're going to do something fun for him. So we're going to be out, right? So I'm not going to be on a pod, or I won't be available to do it then. So that's what we're going to do. We'll talk about the bowl game on Thursday, and we'll get that all going. All right. So the ISD position on the report from Pete Thamel. Pete Thamel says, it's a likely landing spot for Notre Dame. And I do want to caution people, okay? The ISD position is that, from what we're hearing, right, we cannot confirm that it's likely, right? I would say that it's not a lock, okay? And I think people need to keep that in mind. It's not, and look, what Notre Dame fans have been through over the last week or so, right, with Braden Fisk, who was at one point almost, I think people would say very likely to end up at Notre Dame, is now going to Florida State, right? And if you were on the ISD message board, Christian posted kind of an update about that, what we think was going on there, and that's we think that was basically an NIL type deal, right, where he went for the offer that made him the happiest. And so that's what he did. Right. And so we have to keep in mind that Notre Dame is not the only school that's going to want Sam Hartman. Okay. Now he's a very good quarterback. He's a very good quarterback in the portal, right? And so if you're a quarterback needy team, you're going to want to go after him. And I think schools know that if you're in it with Notre Dame, you can get them with an NIL deal, right? And that you can. And we've seen it before. We've seen it with we saw it with Braden Fisk. We saw it in the recruiting game, right? So you've seen that. So just someone might offer colder drinks, Kevin. Completely correct. Kevin Simon said someone might offer colder drinks, and Sam Hartman wants to go there, right? I do think there are just some differences with Sam Hartman and like Braden Fisk, for example. So Braden Fisk, I can't imagine he had a very robust NIL operation at Western Michigan, the MAC school, right? Maybe he had some deals, but nothing that's going to blow your mind away, right? So for him, I think it would make sense if you're a fifth year player, if you're going into your last year and you can get some upfront money from Florida State, you go do it, right? Like that to me makes total sense, right? Get the best offer while you can. It may be a one-time thing. You don't know where your NFL future is and that sort of thing. So to me, it makes complete sense for Braden Fisk to do that. I don't feel any sort of way about him doing that. To me, it's just like free agency, man. If you can get a deal, you take it, right? It's great for him. Good for him. It's a situation where Notre Dame missed out. I think Sam Hartman is a little bit different in that he appears to have a pretty robust NIL operation going on already. He's got a bunch of endorsement deals already. His Instagram, you can see those things. I mean, he's got some things going on, and I think for him, he can just add on to that with Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame can offer things in that NIL space where it's like that he can look at Michael Mayer and Kyle Hamilton and Isaiah Foskey and say that's what I can get. Because I am already I'm already a known quantity in the space, right? Good looking guy, obviously. So you can he can just add on to things. So for him, the NIL deals that you can get at Notre Dame as far as endorsements aren't hypothetical the way they would be for someone like Braden Fisk or the way they would be for someone like a high school player like Peyton Bowen. Notre Dame could say, hey, this is what Kyle Hamilton made, or this is what Michael Mayer made. But that's down the line, and it's not guaranteed. For Sam Hartman, pretty guaranteed. If he decides that he wants to play football at Notre Dame, he will get NIL deals almost immediately, right? So for him, it's not theoretical, right? You don't have to guarantee money to someone like him because he knows that's coming in. He knows he's going to get it. He knows that he can get that. So I think there is a mitigating factor where Notre Dame isn't offering guaranteed money. And it's okay in this particular situation, where in another situation like Braden Fisk, maybe it doesn't work out like that. Right. So I think that's one place where, Notre Dame can, set itself apart, or not set itself apart, but it's not handcuffed the way they would be in another situation. I'd rather have Fruit Loops, not Fruity O's. Just saying. I see what you're saying there, Simon. I don't know where you're coming at with that though. So I don't know. Are you saying Notre Dame is the Fruit Loops or someone else is the Fruit Loops? Help me out with that. ND for life. Good afternoon. Perfect way to spend a lunch break. I agree with you. That's a fair take. It's fair take. So Joe Bro, you want NIL or an opportunity to play? I think Notre Dame gives you both. In this situation, Notre Dame gives you both. And Sam Hartman can very much capitalize on the Notre Dame brand in his position coming in right now. So for him, it's not theoretical, the NIL opportunities at Notre Dame. It is absolutely not. Let's see. Kevin Soldowski says, I wish the NCAA would grow a pair and get the real reason for NIL. It's not who can be outbid the other guy. Time to start penalizing these schools. Kevin, I think a lot of people feel like that, and that is not going to happen. I guarantee it. There's too much oversight. They don't have the will and they don't have the infrastructure to go after it. So I see what you're saying. But I get it, but that's not going to happen. Simon Aguilar says Notre Dame is the Fruit Loops. Yes. Then yes, I want the Fruit Loops, not Fruity-O's. I get it. All right, let's talk about CFB Hurts. He's probably going to be the best player at the most important position in our portal this year. Gotta imagine he's going to get some serious NIL offers. Agree. And look, he's a good-looking guy, right? That's the other part. Like, he's a really good-looking guy. He knows how to capitalize on that. So good. I mean, it just furthers the point that Notre Dame is in a different spot with him than I think with other players. Yeah, can't ask a corrupt organization of police others. That's pretty much where it is. The good way to put it as far as the NCAA. Kevin Simonson says can't put the candy back in the wrapper. He's wrapper over here. So yeah. All right, let's talk about Sam Hartman, the player. Okay, so there's been a lot of discussion. There's been like a number of discussion. Lucas Dizon. Lucas, you had me, man. You knew I was going to make the segue because I'm a professional and I do it. And Lucas helped me out. So I appreciate that. We're going to talk about that right now. First, I'm going to say hello to Pops McGee, who says, what's up? What's up to you, Pops? Thanks for always being a listener to the show. All right, let's talk about Sam Hartman. Okay. I'm going to pull up some numbers here too. All right. So let's look. All right. So last year, we're looking at 270 completions on 430 attempts, 62.8 completion percentage, basically 63% passer, 3,700 yards, 8.6 yards per attempt, 38 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Right now, I think people look at the interceptions, and I think if you watch the bowl game, right, like he'll take chances, right, and he'll put the ball in some spots that make you a little uncomfortable, right? Not what we're used to see. Right. I mean, basically all the things that fans wanted Ian Book to be, Sam Hartman is that, in that he will take chances. He will push the ball downfield. Right. So as an example, passing depth, 20 plus yard passes. Right. Sam Hartman completed 41 balls deeper than 20 plus yards. So basically pushing the ball down the field. Drew Pine attempted 41 passes of 20 plus yards, right? So he's completing the same number as Drew Pine is attempting, right? And that's kind of across the board, right? Like Drew Pine completed 16 passes of 20 plus yards last year. I think Jack Cohn was at like 13. Jack Cohn was not a very good deep ball thrower. I think Ian Book pushed the ball downfield a little bit more. But not the way Sam Hartman does, right? And if you look at the PFF grade, okay, now obviously PFF grades or whatever, but like Sam Hartman has a 90.8 passer percentage or passer grade over on throws of deep balls 20 plus yards, right? NFL passer rating of 103.6. Now that's not great, but it's not awful, right? Like it's pretty good. He's got 24 big time throws on that, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 14 yards per attempt. Obviously that's because of the distance, right? And then a 44% completion percentage, right? So you're almost at 50-50 pushing the ball down the field. And like I think that's what Notre Dame is looking at, right? I think that's when you see that and what fans are looking for. It's like, man, let's take shots. Let's go after it, and we want to push the ball, right? And if you look at what they have coming back, right, you have Tobias Merriweather, and you have Deion Colsey, and you have Lorenzo Styles, and you have freshmen coming in, Braylon James and Caleb Smith, and on and on and on. And you look at how Notre Dame can, take its offense to the next level. I think you're looking at someone who will take shots downfield, who they can be a vertical team now, someone who's willing to stand in the pocket and take those shots. And if you look at the pressure, what he does when he's kept clean, I think that's when he really separates himself. And the thing about going to Notre Dame that has to be attractive for him is you see how clean the pocket is on a regular basis for Drew Pine, right? So Drew Pine, I think, was kept clean on 70% of the dropbacks, right? And so this year, Sam Hartman was at 67.6, 68% passing, 2,986 yards, 9.2 yards per attempt, 30 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 93.7 PFF grade on that, and an NFL passer rating of 118, right? So that's very good. 21 big time throws from him when he's kept clean. And the under pressure numbers are obviously not as good, right? So you're at 6.7 yards per attempt, 47% passer, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, right? And I think that a lot of the pressure you saw at Wake is it's a little different than at Notre Dame. I mean, that's like real pressure, right? There's people around him all the time. He's working in a condensed space. He knows how to, get himself available to make a good deep ball throw. We saw that in the bowl game where he's in there and he's kind of shifting around the pocket. Is he under pressure? Technically, not sure, but he definitely had to move. He definitely had to maneuver. Hits the player on the corner route. The player makes a man miss, scores a touchdown, right? And so that's the kind of thing you get from him. And so I'm going to go to some comments here. Jim asked, did Notre Dame recruit Hartman as a high schooler? So interestingly, I don't think they wouldn't have. I don't think they would have, because in this class it was Phil Jurkovec. So Phil Jurkovec was in the 2018 class when he came in. And funny enough, Ian Book's first start in 2018 was against Wake Forest. Sam Hartman was the quarterback in that game. He had to come in because the kid, I can't remember his name. The kid who ended up transferring to Georgia and then not playing. I think he got hurt. But maybe there was another quarterback who got hurt. Either way, Sam Hartman was the backup. And then Jamie Newman, that's who it was. So Jamie Newman came in after Sam Hartman. And I think there was another quarterback that Sam Hartman was replacing. So he was like the backup that year. Anyway, long story short, 2018, that was Ian Book's first start in 2018, and Sam Hartman was the quarterback then, right? So he's been around for a long time, but Notre Dame wouldn't have recruited him because they were after Phil Jurkovec. That's who they landed in the class. Simon Reed, that's a good call, Simon. What a coincidence that Pine left his number 10 jersey for Hartman to inherit. It's a good point. Players love having their numbers, right? It's just it's a smooth transition. See what you did there. I think that's right. I think that's a good call. So, but back to Hartman as a passer. So he does take the chances. Doesn't have a huge arm, right? And I think that's part of, like, he's not the kind of guy who's like going to make incredible throws. No one's going to wow him. And that's why, like, if you wonder, like, why isn't he in the NFL? This is why, for one, is because he doesn't have that big arm, that great athleticism or anything like that. And then he's in the slow mesh offense, right? And so that's it's a hindrance, right? Like, what does he look like in a more of a pro style? That might be another reason why Notre Dame is a good option for him, because, Dan Orlovsky has said many times, like, he's a huge fan of Tommy Rees as a play caller, as a developer, Hey, look, our opinions are our opinions. Dan Orlovsky is obviously kind of blowing up all over ESPN for the way that he calls games and the way he evaluates and that sort of thing. And if he sees something in Tommy Rees, then you say to yourself, okay, like, that's a data point, right? You see Sean McVay say, we took Kyron Williams because it's such a simple evaluation for us, because he did a lot of the concepts that we're going to do at Notre Dame, right? And so, and for the Rams. So that's another data point where it's like, you come in, you're going to do NFL concepts, right? And you're going to run an NFL style playbook. And that is probably attractive to Sam Hartman, right? Like, he wants to go to the NFL. So it makes sense where he can come to Notre Dame, make NIL money, probably more than he would make as a rookie in the NFL, and kind of develop into a pro style quarterback, right? And so that's a huge motivating factor for him. Now, a lot of people talk about, I love this. See, Jim Scales. I'll tell you what I love about this show already, because I was just going to transition to this. Sorry for the second question. Have you seen much pure play action, non-pull out of him? So they don't do a ton of that. they don't do a ton, so they're not under center, right? So that's another part where they don't do a lot of under center stuff. If they're going play action, it's the slow mesh, right? And that's what makes it kind of hard to evaluate from our standpoint, is they don't do a lot of the stuff that that Notre Dame does, right? So there's not a 1-for-1. But what Wake Forest does do is they do a good amount of straight dropbacks, right? So I think everyone thinks they're doing the slow mesh on every single passing play, right? 62% of the time they're no play action, straight drop, right? And in this, he is a very good quarterback in that situation, right? 172 completions, 273 attempts, 63% completion percentage, 8 yards per attempt, 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, right? 13 big time throws. The one thing that you see from him that's kind of questionable is the turnover worthy plays, right? So you have 18 turnover worthy plays, 12 total interceptions for him. Now that, again, it's something that fans need to get accustomed to, right? On straight dropbacks, Sam Hartman was 108.8 on the NFL scale, which is out of 158.3. I mean, basically anything over 100 is considered good. So if you're at 108.8, then you're looking pretty good there. So there is a lot to there, right? And Jamie, my good friend, my colleague, and my consigliere, Jamie Ueyama, had a really good stat on Power Hour this week. He was talking about, and I don't want to butcher it too much because I heard it and I was like, oh, that's interesting. On 3rd and 6, basically, he was like in the top 5 of passer efficiency in college football, and he had something like 125 NFL passer rating on 3rd and 6 now. Okay. That's huge. That is huge for Notre Dame, right? It opens up so much for an offense where it's like you're not afraid to get in 3rd and long and that sort of thing. And you're not afraid to put yourself in a bad spot. You could be much more aggressive on 1st and 2nd down, right? And that is a part of, I think, what bogs down the Notre Dame offense, especially this year, is you don't want to get into 3rd and long because you feel like, it's not a good down for Notre Dame, right? And I think when you're play calling defensively like that, like how many times do we see, I don't want first down, you run the ball, you don't get much, and 2nd down, you do a 2nd and long run. It's like, I don't like that. But you think to yourself, it's because we don't want to get into 3rd and long. We want to get 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, right? That's what Notre Dame's looking for. That's kind of their sweet spot. And so if you feel like you have a guy in Sam Hartman who it's like, hey, if we're in 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 8, that's no problem. Like we feel comfortable in that down, right? A lot more so than in previous years. That's when you say, okay, we can be more aggressive on 1st and 2nd, right? And so that's another way to improve. SR Dowdy says, love the show. Thanks for what you do. Go Irish. Hey, I appreciate you. Haven't seen you in the show before. So hit the like, hit subscribe button if you like what you hear. And it seems like you do. So please do that. Thank you to everyone for tuning in so far. Gregory Blyther, nice name. I am afraid we don't get a Viper in this defense. His efforts will be for naught. Okay. I do think Notre Dame needs to figure out the Viper situation, right? And there's actually another player for Wake Forest who entered the portal yesterday who I think Notre Dame's going to go after. Jamie can talk more about him because he's a defensive lineman. I think there's Stanford Stephen Heron for Stanford who's in the portal now. I think Notre Dame is looking at him, right? So I think they'll pick up somebody, to be honest. But I think that if Justin Ademilola comes back and you pair him with Jordan Botelho, I think they'll be good enough to where it's not going to be like his efforts will be for naught. Like, I don't think it'll be like that. I don't think the defense will be compromised to the point where it's like it doesn't matter what Notre Dame's offense does. I think they'll always be like, look, this year, right? Like they had some struggles where they give up like 21 points a game. You just fine. You could be just fine as a defense if you're doing that stuff. Now, obviously, we would like better than that, right? As fans and as people evaluating, like you would want to see something like, like the 18, 17, 18, 19 points per game. That's kind of been the standard and that's what you're looking for. But I don't think the defense, if they don't, for some reason, they don't get a Viper this year in the portal, I don't think the defense will be so bad that it's It's like Oklahoma, back in the day, right? Where it's like we're giving up 50, 40 points a game or whatever, losing games 45-42. Like I don't see that happening. But in a vacuum, I think Notre Dame does need to get a Viper, and I think they will. The question of who is obviously out there, but I do think they will. But it's a good point. It's a good point. And just in terms of bringing up the Viper and the need for one. Evan Olson asked, do you see value in having a package for Buckner to run next year as well? Maybe the staff is including it as a carrot to Tyler Buckner. All right. So this kind of goes regardless of who the quarterback is, really. If it's Sam Hartman, I don't think he's the kind of guy I did not see that. Herron committed to Louisville. I did not see that. That's no good. Huh. I have to be. Was it like today? Was it today? I didn't see that. But thank you for bringing that up. That's one less option. I don't like that. Or Notre Dame doesn't like that. So, all right, back to this question. So if it's Hartman, I don't see them taking him off the field. I just don't think you need to. I just you keep him on the field. That's why you bring him in. He's always out there. He's not the type of guy you take out of the game. Personally, I think honestly, for Buckner, it would be great for him to see how Hartman operates, right? And Buckner needs to get his own game together, right? And if Notre Dame becomes, like, let's say it is Sam Hartman, if Notre Dame becomes more of a vertical team, then that means in practice you're going to be doing more vertical stuff, in which case that's going to cause Buckner to be more of a vertical player in practice. And that's what you want to do, right? So I think Notre Dame, I think that's where Tyler Buckner needs to improve. I think he needs to be more of a vertical player because I don't think the short passing game stuff is going to work for him. I don't think that's where the offense should go anyway. Like I think Notre Dame needs to get away from that a little bit. I think they need to be more of a threat. They need to threaten teams deeper, especially with the running game, right? You want to keep the safeties deep so that the running game can thrive on the second level, right? Because that's one thing that really hurt them this year is, the running backs would break through, but the safeties are so close to the line of scrimmage that you don't really have that space to make a move and get into the secondary, like, for real. And that's why you're seeing, like, I think that's part of why Notre Dame saw not a lot of explosive plays in the running game, because the safeties are too close. So I think they need to get safeties back, give more room once the backs get in the second level and they can make some moves there. But for Buckner, like, I just think he needs to work on his own kind of passing game in his situation, right? Maybe they could, maybe there's a package they could bring in, but I just don't think you need to with Sam Hartman if it's him, right? And good chance that it's him. Not a lock, like I said on the beginning of the show. That's where ISD is with it right now. Just that, like, look, I think it's an attractive option for Hartman. I think he's going to look at other schools. I don't think there are other schools. I don't think Notre Dame's the only player for him. There are other schools going to be involved. I wouldn't be surprised if he took more visits, or if he took a bunch of visits, right? Like, not just Notre Dame. So, like, if you see that, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you see he's visiting, I don't know, Auburn or something. I'm just throwing that out there. Like, if you see that, like, don't freak out. Like, he's going to look at multiple spots, right? So we'll see how that goes. Do you think Jayden will have a breakout season as Hartman as quarterback one? I think you could have one. I mean, it kind of depends on your definition of breakout. I mean, I think they could all, right? Because you're obviously now you're completely comfortable throwing the ball on any down in any situation, right? It's almost like going from, like, Brady Quinn 2004 to Brady Quinn 2005. I mean, I doubt it'll be that extreme, but in terms of just, like, I think that's why the 2005 season was so fun for everybody, is that suddenly every time Notre Dame throws it, some guy's wide open, right? And so I think it could be like Samardzija and Stovall kind of thing. I mean, again, not to those numbers, right? Because Notre Dame's going to run the ball a lot more frequently than the 2005 and 2006 teams did. But it just, in terms of, like, the style of play and how Notre Dame approaches offense, like, you could see that. because Hartman is completely different. Like it's just completely different style from Pine. It's not like Pine did a bad job or anything, but it's just Hartman is a different type of quarterback, and he has a different mindset completely. It's almost like Maverick, like it's almost like Maverick in Top Gun. Like Maverick is I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do this thing that like doesn't make sense to anybody, but I'm going to be super aggressive. And like Drew Pine is like Iceman, where it's like I'm going to be, Drew Pine was like that. I think Cohn was like that. I think Ian Book was like that. Like they've all been kind of like Iceman. Sam Hartman is Maverick, right? And so that's kind of how I see it. Craig D says, hit the like. It's free. It is free. It is free. You know what else is free? Subscribing to the show. That's also free. So just to reiterate again, as I said on the top, not a done deal. Okay. So we're having a discussion as if it's definitely happening. I would say it's, I would say it's a good chance it happens, but it's not done. Okay. Keep it in mind. Not done. Not done. Good chance, not done. Okay. So just keep that in mind. All right. As we go forward, Hartman would be a PBRF says Hartman would be a great pickup. Good kid, has a great career so far, and to do it at Wake Forest with RO line skill players, Hartman could potentially be a Heisman candidate. Potentially, sure. I think as far as the skill play, I think Wake Forest has some pretty good skill guys. I think the O-line is where it's different. Like this is totally different, right? You're walking into the building and Joe Alt standing there and Blake Fisher standing there, right? And it's like, whoa, these guys, like that to me is as much of a selling point as any NIL or anything else. Like Joe Alt and Blake Fisher greet you when you walk into the building. I like this. I like that. Right. Like I could see him having that kind of reaction, and I don't know, like there aren't a lot of places you're going to get that. Right. Like when I was talking about Drew Pine and how he went to Arizona State, it's like, sure. Right. You see him in the offense, but like he needs protection. He needs that. And I think for Sam Hartman, you look at that situation and I'm going to have a lot of clean pockets, and that's good. All right, let's go to Dustin DeMumbrum. What are chances Notre Dame lands competent talent at interior defensive line, edge, and safety before the season starts? I would say the interior. I mean, I don't know, competent. Like, I guess the question I would have for you, Dustin, is what do you consider competent? Do you consider Chris Smith competent? Because I think you should, because I think he was. Like, I think that's what it was. But it's like, you're also not like, oh, we don't have like a weakness on the interior because we have Chris Smith against like USC or Clemson, right? I think Chris Smith gave Notre Dame good snaps, right? I think he had a good year. I think he was a good take. But I just like, tell me what you think is competent. Give me an example of who you're thinking of, Dustin, in any of those situations, and then I'll try to answer the question better. All right, let's see. What's more realistic, Joseph and Justin A returning or Notre Dame filling their spots in the portal? Ooh, good question. I would say it's more realistic they fill their spots in the portal because I think they might anyway. Because the other part is like Notre Dame could bring in a Viper and they could bring in a safety, and both of them stay on the roster. So I think they're trying to do that anyway. So I think they're trying to fill spots in the portal regardless. So that's where I would say on that. So I think it's more likely that, but that also doesn't mean that I think Justin's going to stay. I think Brandon Joseph is a little more up in the air. I don't know if he's going to go to the NFL. I don't know what he's trying to, what he thinks he's going to do in the NFL as far as like when he's going to get drafted. To me, he's got a tough road to hoe. Tough road to. I'm not going to do this right, so I'm not going to say it. I'm going to stop. Although earlier Kevin Simonson, I think Kevin Simon says these are types of analogies I sub for. He liked the Maverick thing. That was good. I was watching Top Gun Maverick earlier, so that's why it came in my mind. All right, So, all right. So let's transition a bit to the overall, because I Notre Dame losing Braden Fisk, like that was a big deal, right? And it kind of it kicked off a whole road to hoe. Thank you. Tough road to hoe. This is my people. Thank you, CFB Hertz. Thank you, Craig D. You get on a live show and it's like, what am I saying? What am I thinking? So tough road to hoe. Thank you very much. All right. So the loss of Braden Fisk kind of kicked off like a whole thing about NIL and Notre Dame, and they got to step up. And so for Braden and not just that, but then it kind of piggybacks onto Peyton Bowen and that sort of thing too. And here's the thing. It's not like, first of all, it's not like Notre Dame has ever been a top bid type place, right? In any facet, right? So Marcus Freeman took less money to come Notre Dame as a defensive coordinator, right? True fact. He said it as a matter of fact. Like, yeah, LSU offered me more money. I wanted to come Notre Dame, right? And so, you know, in terms of the Goog, right? Like the Brian Kelly's big thing. It's like I want more alterations to the Goog. I want a better situation. You know, I don't want to have to fight for it all the time, right? Notre Dame's not going to pay top dollar for. They're still going to put out a good product, but like it's not going to be state of the art. Notre Dame's not going to be state of the art. So if it's like a true highest bidder situation, Notre Dame's not going to be the highest bidder. They're not. So and so it's not just an NIL thing. Let's just say we decided, like, when I say we, I mean like I do this thing where I put myself in their shoes and I say we, and it sounds like it's not. But when I'm saying Notre Dame decided, like, okay, we're going to do guaranteed money, but Notre Dame's not going to be the top guaranteed money school, right? They're not. And so I think that's a part where people also have to get kind of that wrapped in their mind. Like, you might be, because the other thing, here's the thing with Braden Fisk too, is Notre Dame didn't just lose him. USC lost him too. USC wanted him. USC needed him more than Notre Dame does. That's just true, right? So I think the fact that USC didn't win that either, it's like, you're telling me USC didn't offer him guaranteed money? Like, I'm sure they did. They've offered a lot of people guaranteed money, right? So I think that's part of where it's like Notre Dame might go into the guaranteed money route and still lose players. They're not a top. They've lost coaches that way, right? They've lost in a number of kind of ways where it's like, we're not going to spend the money on different improvements to the program or coaching salaries or anything, right? Like, that's been a thing. So I think people get it in their mind, like, oh, Notre Dame offered guaranteed money, they're going to get these guys. I think people still going to outbid them. The other problem is that you have a whole roster of players who are all at Notre Dame under the same situation. No guaranteed money. You can make money in NIL, okay, and through endorsements and that other thing, but you got to earn on the field first. You have 85 players on scholarship under that guys, right? If Notre Dame just decides, like, okay, we don't want to lose Braden Fisk, we're going to offer him $200,000. I don't know what he got from Florida State. I'm just using an example. Here's $200,000 to Braden Fisk. You come to Notre Dame. Well, what do you then say to Jeremiah Love, who took, who turned down money from Texas A&M? What do you say to someone like Drake Bowen? What do you say to Tobias Merriweather? What do you say to Blake Fisher? What do you say to Joel? What do you say to all these guys, right? Like, and the point I'm making is, like, they're all at Notre Dame under the same situation. And I do agree with Kevin in that it makes more sense to give upfront money to portal players than high school kids. Totally agree. But it also makes more money. It makes more sense to give upfront money to the players already in your program. And I'm talking real upfront money. Like, you can't give Braden Fisk $200K if Justin Admiral is making less than $200K. You know, you can't. I mean, you can, but like, it's bad. He'll leave. He'll go somewhere else. And it's like that for a lot of players. You can't give Braden Fisk $200K if Blake Fisher's making less than $200K, or Joe Alt, or Zeke Correll, or JD Bertrand or Cam Hart, Ben Morrison. Like you can't, because Ben Morrison, I promise you, teams are offering him money to get into the portal and go play corner for them because he's awesome, right? That's going to happen. That's normal. Like, that's to be expected. So Notre Dame, if we're going to see like changes to how they approach NIL and all that stuff, we need to hear about how they're taking care of the players on the roster first. That needs to be first, because you can't do the rest if the players on the roster aren't taken care of, because that's where you get the exodus from. Because right now they're all in the same boat. They're all in the same boat. And no one is going to get mad at Michael Mayer if he's making more than them, because he's making NIL stuff, because he's Michael Mayer, right? He's earned it. They all know he's a captain, first round pick, consensus All-American, right? Setting records. No one's going to get mad if that Michael Mayer is making a ton of money. Isaiah Foskey has the all-time sack record. Okay. He's going to make money in NIL, and everyone understands that, right? But you can't offer more to Sam Hartman. And honestly, Sam Hartman, if they did offer some, they might understand. He's the quarterback, right? They might understand that, but they might not too, right? I'll bet you there would be some phone calls from some parents like, hey, wait a second. Okay, this guy's going to be here for a year. We've been here for 5. We've given X to the university for 5 years, right? To make this situation attractive for someone like Sam Hartman, like, we want to be made whole too, right? And they're gonna have those conversations. So I think going forward, if we're gonna hear about Notre Dame making changes to NIL, I think they need to take care of the players first on the roster. And so that's where it has to come from, right? That's where we need to hear, like, hey, Notre Dame's NIL operation is like actually humming right now. And so that's where I think that's where the conversation needs to go. I think a lot of people are upset about, what losing Peyton Bowen and losing Keon Keeley and losing Dante Moore and that sort of thing. But you can't, there's so much more for Notre Dame to consider with the program and how that sort of stuff can affect the program and their culture and all those things than just saying, then some donor deciding, okay, I'm going to fund Peyton Bowen's recruitment, or I'm going to fund Keon Keeley's or Dante Moore's, or get Braden Fisk in here, right? There's a lot more for Notre Dame to consider there, right? And then there's like the whole philosophical, what is the, what is the brand of the university, right? Where does the university stand on this stuff, right? So that's where that is. So that's where I kind of stand on like the whole NIL operation. It's like they need to take care of the take care of the players on the team first, and then branch out from there and start to take, and then that's when you can, make moves on other players when your own players are made whole already. Craig D asked the question, is Coach Washington going to get more scrutiny? I would say probably, right? I mean, the record is the record in terms of, you didn't land Keon Keeley. You didn't land Braden Fisk. Now, obviously, maybe these things are out of his control, right? Maybe that's true. Brandon Davis Swain left the class, right? Which was maybe known, right? And so, okay, right. I think there are some people who feel like it's a little underwhelming, I guess. The D-line class that just came in. I mean, part of that is just you didn't get that top-ranked guy. You didn't get the top-ranked guy and that sort of thing. In terms of like a top 100 player. And then that goes back to what you think about Brennan Vernon, what you think about Devin Houston, Armel Mukam. How do you feel about him as a prospect? But I do think that this is a big year. I think the D-line he has to get some real traction with some highly ranked guys on the defensive line. And I think the defensive line itself has to have a very big season. So on that front, I do think he probably feels the pressure, like, hey, we got to be good this year. As Joe Burrow asks, who's a better D-line coach? That is a question I'll have for Jamie if that ever comes up. Because Jamie somehow always has a Rolodex of people who are good fits for any coaching vacancy. It's actually kind of amazing on his part. And he's the D-line guy. So he's the one who can answer that question. So the next time Jamie's in here, we could talk about that. Gregory Blyther points out Hartman could also help Charlotte Christian pipeline in recruiting. Charlotte area is pretty hot in prep football. Good point. Good point on that. Yeah, I mean, anytime you can dip into the Carolinas and that sort of thing. I think that's good. I think that's a good point that that Greg brings up. Pops McGee's throwing out there Larry Black over at Vandy. He's a former Notre Dame GA, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, could be right. That's a solid call by Pops there. So, and I think Jamie brought him up the last time there was a vacancy, and then Al Washington, took the job. I think Jamie talked about Al Washington being an elite recruiter, and I don't think we saw that, right? Which isn't to say the players they brought in aren't very good. I don't think that's true, but like, I don't think we look at it and say, well, that's elite, right? That's an elite class that he brought in. It's a good class, right? But I don't know that you would call it elite or anything like that. All right, we'll wrap things up with talking about the bowl game a little bit. I think Jamie, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna go into it more on Thursday. We'll talk about the bowl. But Jamie's brought up that South Carolina is down 11 starters right now, going into this bowl game, and I think that's a huge deal. I think early there was a big, kind of talking point about, obviously Mayer is out and Isaiah Foskey's out. And then your Jason Ademilola might not play. He's not officially, he didn't opt out or anything, but he was hurt. He was banged up against USC. And so it's like, is he going to be healthy enough? We don't really know. And so then obviously Drew Pine, he's over at Arizona State, so he's not going to play in the game. So it's kind of a lot going on. Cam Hart is out because of his shoulder. So there's a lot going on there for Notre Dame, and I think that was a big story. But now, I mean, 11 starters out for South Carolina. Like, I think that's a huge deal. And so I think, it's kind of hard to know what to expect in this game, right? Like, what are they going to get from Buckner? How are they going to use him? Are they going to just do, I personally, I think what they were doing with Pine and just inserting Buckner into like the running quarterback role, I think would be very deadly for them, right? Like because South Carolina hasn't done very well against teams that run the ball. And I think adding the Buckner dimension even makes it worse, right? Because now you have to worry about the quarterback running that can do a lot more quarterback power stuff. But does Notre Dame want to be careful with him because of the shoulder? Personally, I don't think they should. If he can play, then he can play, and you got to play him the way that he's got his skill set demands, right? I think you got to do it. I think you can't be worried about getting him hurt because – and first of all, a super serious injury would it would almost be on like a type of play that doesn't involve like contact or anything like that, right? So it's just like the nature of being out playing football. I mean, that's where the kind of the serious injuries come from. So I think you got to play him the way you want. I think we all kind of want Notre Dame to push the ball down the field and do all that sort of thing. But I don't know. I think the way to win the game is just kind of pound them and then just go from there. Joe Brosse's, I want to see the young guys anyway. Yeah, I mean, but I think a part of that too is like Mitchell Evans, like we see him a lot, right? I think Botelho could see a lot more snaps in this game because of Isaiah Foskey going out. But I think the guys we want to see, like Prince Colley and Jalen Sneed, like the players at those positions are playing, right? So it's like Marist and Kaiser and those guys, like they're going to play in the game. So but I do want to see those guys play for sure. Like I want to see a ton of Xavier Watts. I'd like to see a lot of Tobias Merriweather. If he doesn't play like half the snaps, I mean, what are we doing? I don't understand that, right? Because I mean, I like Lindsey. It's nothing against Lindsey, and he plays the wide side, but I mean, Lindsey's not going to be on the team next year, and you got to get Tobias going, right? Like he's used up. He's got his 5 games, so it's too late. You got to get him out there. Let's go. Let the legs release. Let let the legs get unfurled, and let's see him make some plays down the field. Rudy Franco says, any idea when Hartman make announcement? I would think it has to be I think he has to visit Notre Dame first. I do. I just I don't think there's any way that he's going to announce for Notre Dame and he hasn't visited. And maybe he has like under cover of night, right? Maybe he's been to Notre Dame a few times since the bowl game ended. I don't know, but I just think, but that would be like illegal. Notre Dame wouldn't do that. So I think he's got to visit officially before. So sometime maybe first week of January, second week of January, something like that. So that's what I think has to happen. Corey Flynn asks, you think Hartman was a guaranteed starter role or tour competition would happen? I'm sure they told him he's got to compete for it. He wouldn't give it to him. But look, he's been in college for a long time. I mean, let me see if I can find his total passes in his career. I mean, let me see here. He's thrown 1,602 passes. Obviously, 110 touchdowns, the most in the history of the ACC. He's thrown for 12,974 yards. Like, I mean, he's dropped back 1,869 times. Like, Tyler Buchner's not beating him out. I just don't think so. And Tyler Buchner would know that too. I mean, it's just. And we're talking like real production, like super production, multiple years of being the guy. So I don't think he was guaranteed anything, but I think he kind of expects like it's me and someone who started 3 games, I mean, Tyler Buchner would have to be so good to win this job. If it's Sam Hartman, he would have to be that if Tyler Buchner beats him out, like literally, maybe he will win the Heisman. That's how good he'd have to be. He'd have to be really good. So, I think Steve Angeli's hard. It's hard to say. Gregory Breither asks, "What's the progress of Steve Angeli?" I think it's hard to determine. Notre Dame hasn't seen him. We haven't seen him. I mean, what Notre Dame beat hasn't seen him. We haven't seen him in any games. And it's like I will say I've seen him warm up a couple times. I think the ball comes out of his hand real nice. I love how he flicks it, and it's spinning real nice as well. So I like it. I like how he looks. It's like where is he at with reads and kind of knowledge of the offense and that sort of thing. Standing in the pocket making throws, like that's the thing you don't really know. And there's just not a lot of buzz that comes out from practice. And the other part too is like, do we believe the buzz? There was some great buzz about Tyler Buchner in summer camp, and then he came out and didn't look that great. So do we believe the buzz? It's one of those things like we're just going to have to see it from him, from Angeli, get him in the game and see how he goes. I know they like him, right? And from what I've seen, I think he throws a good ball. So that's part of it. But I don't know that it's not that people are being misleading about him. It's just, or about any, when you hear positive buzz, I think people think it. It's just, okay, let me get rid of that. So I think people think what they're saying. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't translate. Whatever they're seeing doesn't translate to the game. So, all right. I think that's a good place to leave it. We can leave it there. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Kind of an emergency show, hours notice. Got a good turnout today. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you for the interaction. Thank you for tuning in, spending time on the kind of the holiday season. Hope everyone had a great Christmas. Hope everyone has a great New Year. Once again, me and Jamie will be back on Thursday to preview the bowl game. Go way in depth. Jamie's got a bunch of stuff on irishsportsdaily.com. So if you're really looking for like a scouting report on South Carolina, you want to know what they're offering, Jamie's got some stuff up on irishsportsdaily.com. So go to irishsportsdaily.com and check that out. If not, we will talk soon. So again, Thursday, I don't know what time yet. We got to figure it out. Jamie's got to get home. We got to make sure he gets home because the flights right now are a total disaster. So hopefully that works out. We can get him home and we'll get things settled. So yeah, thanks again, everybody. We'll have a good show. We'll talk to you again Thursday, and have a good rest of the day. Oh, Steve Miller. Appreciate you, man. I saw this last second. Didn't want to miss it. So thanks, Steve Miller, for the super chat. Thanks, Greg. See you guys Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. All right, guys. See ya.